tell us a little bit about the premise of your film, of course.
Sure. My film is called Level 16. It's a dystopian thriller, and it's about a group of 16-year-old girls who live in a kind of warped boarding school that's extremely authoritarian. And they've lived in this boarding school their whole lives. They've never been into the outside world. And they've been told that if they behave, if they're obedient, and they keep themselves very clean, that when they're 16, they'll be adopted by a wealthy family who will protect them. And it's about two girls, Vivian and Sophia, who start to investigate what's really going on in this dark school.
Oh, wow. I guess the casting process was a very selective process, of course, and then finding your two main characters and of course, I would have played teenagers, of course.
Yeah. It was really fun looking for the lead actors, looking for really talented young women who are great actors. And we did most of our casting in Toronto, but we also did some sessions in Vancouver. And we ended up choosing our two leads from Toronto, Katie Douglas, and Vancouver, Selena Martin. And they play the two girls.
Nice. There's been a couple comparisons through reviews and articles about this being like Handmaid's Tale. Not obviously, but some sort of correlation. Can you comment a little bit about that, maybe Margaret Atwood's influence on this?
Well, I love Atwood and always have, so I'm quite flattered to be compared to Handmaid's Tale. I think, feminist dystopia is a genre that's well known, I think, in literature, but not so much in terms of film and television. So most people, when they think of feminist dystopia, they only know Handmaid's Tale, which of course is wonderful. So, we deal with some of the same themes about gender. Though, of course, Handmaid's Tale, a lot of their themes deal with issues of fertility and the control of women's bodies. In that area, ours has a different theme, which I can't talk about too much without giving away our story.
No spoilers.
But it's about teen girls and about the experiences that young women have in terms of how they're educated to be members of society, and how femininity is sometimes used as a form of social control to prevent young women from truly engaging in the world and having freedom. So there's some similarities.
Now, did you have to coach your main characters into their role?
Both our main leads, Katie and Selena, are amazing actors. So I tried to make myself available as much as possible. I'd spent 10 years writing this script, so I knew their characters and their world really deeply, and I was there as a resource for them. But one of the exciting things about directing is when you get to the stage when you have actors finally cast, is you have to let go to a certain level. You have to give the characters over to them and let them find their own ways of bringing them to life. You give them all the information you have, but you can't control how they inhabit those characters, because a lot of that portrayal has to be something that's come from within them.
Now, tell us a little bit about, TIFF has their hashtag Share Her Journey. A lot of the festivals here are really becoming behind women filmmakers, of course. Can you maybe comment on a little bit about that, women in the actual industry, and perhaps like how much work is ahead of that we need to do in order to recognize women in the industry?
Well, I've been making films for 10 years, and I've certainly seen some change happening finally, which is really nice, because there are a lot of barriers to women in the film industry, a lot of obstacles. Traditionally, it is much harder for us to get funding, much harder for us to get programmed. Women's films aren't celebrated in the same way traditionally, and we've been hovering at this really small percentage of film production. When you go to any film school in the country, half of the students in film school are women, but when they graduate, they don't get the support and the funding of their male colleagues, so then you end up with an industry where actually only about 6% of the films are being made by women, which is insane. So there's been so much talk about changing this in the last year with Me Too and all the other movements that are drawing attention to this, and it feels like things are shaking up, but the stats are still really unfair and still really kind of depressingly low. So when you have a festival step up and make a commitment to showing 50% women directors, that can really make a huge change, and a lot of people are doing that. So I really hope that the change we're talking about will be visible next year, that when more of these festivals commit to programming more women.
What sort of, if there is a message, what sort of message do you want to relay to your viewers in terms of this film?
Well, Level 16 at its heart is a story about friendship It's a story about the power of friendship when young women come together and support each other. So that's, I think, a great theme to explore. But then there's many layers to the film.
Right.
So, there's also the thrilling element, the horror element, and then, the deeper issues of exploring gender in today's society. So I hope people can come and enjoy Level 16 on lots of levels. No irony intended.
What were some of the challenges that you faced in the film?
Well, it was very hard to get the film funded. I really wanted Level 16 to be my first feature film. I wrote it right after graduating from the Canadian Film Centre, over 10 years ago. And my producers are wonderful, but we could not get anyone to fund this film. We faced a ton of rejection. We pitched it at markets all over the world, and we kept being told things like, science fiction fans don't want stories about women. Women don't go to science fiction movies. Lots of ridiculous misunderstanding, I think, of the audience. And there was just no support at the time, but we didn't give up. I went and made 2 other feature films, and those did well. And we kept pushing Level 16. We knew it was a film that audiences would respond to, and we were right, because now that we've been playing it in festivals, we've been playing to sellout audiences all over North America. We've had incredible press reviews. There definitely is an audience for science fiction by women, for women, about women. That shouldn't be a barrier to anyone enjoying this film. But it took a while for the industry to figure that out.
Now you're the closing film at this festival. Now tell us a little bit how that feels like.
Oh, it's great. I've never been the closing film before, so that's it's pretty exciting. It's a nice way to end a fantastic, wonderful festival that celebrates Canadian films. It's also nice because we shot this film in Toronto and Hamilton, so a lot of our cast and crew are going to be at the screening, which is really exciting because some of them haven't seen the film yet, so it's really nice to share it with them too.
Well, thank you so much for your time, and good luck with the film here at Blood and Mist.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.